Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. My wife is still away and my dog is missing her terribly. If you listen carefully and the noise reduction doesn't cancel it out, he is snoring up a storm right by the studio. So if you hear something going, that's him. Jimmy Fallon made fun of the new name of the fully approved Pfizer vaccine. That name is Comirnaty. Comirnaty. I'll spell it for you. Comirnaty. Comirnaty. Jimmy Fallon, get this. The new name of the fully approved Pfizer vaccine is Comirnaty, which sounds more like a drunk person trying to say community. You can't arrest me. I'm a valued member of the Comirnaty. I can't even say the word. It's a terrible name. I'm leaving it in. Seth Meyers, this is amazing news that will hopefully convince more people to get vaccinated. And we should all be thrilled, but also huge news that I guess we finally ran out of pharmaceutical names. Seth, did the approval catch Pfizer so off guard that they yelled out a name before they were ready? It's Comirnaty. James Corden. Meanwhile, the Moderna and Johnson & Johnson vaccines don't need FDA approval. They spent lockdown learning to love themselves. The name is so bad that it got an article in the Washington Post, known as your home for comedy news. They wrote, since nothing can be purely good on the internet, the company immediately became a punchline. We regret to inform you, dear reader, that they named the vaccine Comirnaty. Comirnaty? I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's a joke. Well, it's not a joke. It's just a stupid name. As one user put it, achievement unlocked, full FDA approval, also unlocked, crappy, hard to pronounce word, Comirnaty. Thanks, marketing. Indeed, though the FDA announced that it's pronounced Comirnaty. See, I need the phonetics. Thank you, Washington Post. Much has been made about the difficulties in actually saying it aloud. Yeah, you think? Try hosting a daily comedy news podcast. Writer Drew Magary likened it to a Philly resident trying to say community. Great joke. He also suggested it would be amusing if Pfizer did a big ad blizz for Comirnaty without mentioning it's the COVID vaccine at all. Like if they just said promotes lung girth and jabs suddenly went up nationwide by 60%. Twitter users also piled on to point out the absurdity of Comirnaty. CNN editor Ariel Edwards-Levy implored everyone not to lose sight of the fact that Comirnaty is an objectively hilarious brand name. Every vaccine should get a name like somebody pronouncing community with 3 or 4 deviled eggs in their mouth. Seattle pulmonologist Nick Mark said, I feel like the brainstorm session that came up with the name Comirnaty, now I've said it, 12 times wrong now already? Either ended too soon or went on way too long. Entrepreneur Christopher Boozy in a tweet said, the person who came up with the name should never be allowed to name anything ever again. They shouldn't even be allowed to name their pets. It's time to channel Angry Jerry Seinfeld. Person who came up with this name shouldn't even be allowed to name their pets. Meanwhile, Ryan Haynard, co-host of the Black Movie Podcast, found some inspiration in the name, albeit not the kind the vaccine's marketing team might appreciate. He tweeted, if someone can come up with the name Comirnaty for the most important pharmacological advance of the century and not get laughed out of the room, I guess I should be less shy about my work and ideas that are good. Scott Piergrossi is the company's president of operations and communications, and he told the trade publication Fierce Pharma in December 2020 that the name is coined from COVID-19 immunity and then embeds the mRNA in the middle, which is the platform technology, and as a whole, the name is meant to evoke the word community. Oh. Unfortunately, the Washington Post has more. It says the name reminded many Twitter users of the beloved NBC sitcom Community. That's what I did. Others imagined Don Draper from Mad Men unveiling the brand new name. Don Draper pitching a rapt boardroom, everyone's eyes brimming with tears. It isn't just people, it's Comirnaty. One user referenced the Killer's hit song Mr. Brightside and said, Comirnaty my cage and I've been doing just fine. Lyric pun, look it up. Oh, this next thing is great. Not helping Pfizer Comirnaty's case is that in reality, the Moderna vaccine will have the objectively cooler name. Are you ready for Moderna's one? I'm laughing. This is so funny. Moderna's vaccine is called Spikevax. Yep, Spikevax, Vax with an X. How utterly metal, says the Washington Post. Seth Truger is an emergency physician at Northwestern Medicine in Chicago and said, Squares can get the now FDA-approved Pfizer Comirnaty or be a rebel and get the EU aid Spikevax. Talking Points memo founder Josh Martle tweeted, seriously, why even have a name if that's the name? Just go with Pfizer. Oh, that was so much fun, that article. Thank you, Washington Post, your home for comedy news. Hey, Eddie Murphy, This got slipped in. Let me read this to you. California's Film and Tax Credit Program has unveiled another 23 movies. Okay, 10 studio movies and 13 indies. They're going to shoot in California, including top spenders like an untitled John Lennon and Yoko Ono feature. That sounds interesting. Zack Snyder's sci-fi adventure Rebel Moon. And Beverly Hills Cop 4. What? Beverly Hills Cop 4, the result of a one-time licensing deal between Netflix and Paramount, will produce the reboot of the franchise that began in 1984. 1984 is a long time ago. This will be the first Beverly Hills Cop movie since 1994's Beverly Hills Cop 3. Did you figure that out? You did. This next thing I've talked about on the podcast before, if you're into this, scroll down the feed. Maybe it was like last December or so. At one point, Paramount did attempt to make a Beverly Hills Cop TV show that would have focused on Axel Foley's son, who was played by Brandon T. Jackson. Eddie Murphy appeared in a cameo role. Eddie Murphy said the fact that he showed up in the pilot actually hurt the show's chances because he didn't want to play a regular role in the series, and that was the main part of the pilot that people really liked. Yeah, you think people like the Eddie Murphy part, Eddie Murphy? Yeah, we did. Speaking of Netflix, from the Times Herald, they say Marlon Wayans is to star in a Halloween comedy for Netflix. Apparently, Adam Sandler was unavailable because the plot is the adventure comedy centers on a teenage girl who accidentally unleashes an ancient and mischievous spirit on Halloween that causes decorations to come to life and wreak havoc. Why is Adam Sandler not in this? I guess we'll always have Hubie Halloween. Today's Daily Comedy News is brought to you by the Travel is Back podcast. That is my casual travel podcast where I tell you about a place that I like and what I like to do when I'm there. This week's episode, Seattle. I've also talked about, Chicago, Nashville, Boston, Philadelphia, Princeton, New Jersey, Montreal. I can't wait to do the Australia episodes, but I'm not doing the Australia episodes because you can't go to Australia right now. Travel is back wherever you get your shows. From the independent.ie Irish website, PJ Gallagher is a comedian and radio host, and the Independent caught up with PJ. They asked him about his dogs and said, apart from listening to you every morning on radio, what music do the dogs like? PJ Gallagher said, they love Bob Marley. You can see it in them. They chill out. What's the naughtiest, most embarrassing thing that PJ Gallagher's dogs have ever done? PJ Gallagher said, when Wendy was young, we were on the seafront. A man had bought a pizza, and she jumped up on his lap and started eating it. I offered to buy him a new pizza. He was not impressed at all. And then the Independent wanted to know, do PJ Gallagher's dogs like watching the telly? Well, Wendy used to get upset by the opening credits on Breaking Bad, and Stella is not too fond of the news. Whatever it is about the music on the news, it really upsets her. It must be the finance market she's upset about. SouthPerth.com caught up with Randy Feltface. Now, Americans who may not be that familiar with Randy Feltface, so I'll spoil the joke. Randy Feltface, mostly referred to as Randy or on occasion Randy the Purple Puppet, is an Australian puppet comedian voiced and operated by Heath McEvoy. Randy is a permanent fixture on the international stand-up circuit, makes regular guest appearances on Australian TV, so it's a purple puppet. You got it, Randy Feltface. South Perth asked him, were there any puppets that inspired you at the beginning or now, like Kermit or Big Ted? Randy said, I always found the work of Sooty, Sweep, and Sue to be particularly entertaining in my youth. Aussie reference, I guess. These days, I'm a big fan of Nina Conti's Monkey and the TikTok phenomenon that is Tolly T. Paper. I gotta admit, I'm out of my depth with puppet humor here. South Perth asked, when you travel, how do you go on planes? Or do you prefer to pack yourself away in your suitcase, body or legs first? Randy said premium economy all the way. They asked him, is there more freedom speaking as a puppet? Randy said, will you print it if I say the word F-word? And they wrote F-word in the article. If so, then I guess it's true. Has Randy's approach to comedy changed during the pandemic? Well, the answer is my approach to comedy has changed from joyous creative pursuit to post-apocalyptic survival tool. The author added, Randy Feltface is even more handsome in person and a lot taller than I thought. That is your comedy news for today. Follow this podcast on, come on, tell me. That's right, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your shows. See you tomorrow.